I'm on. Echo. Where's your flighter? I might upon you at Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem for opening prayers. Blessing of the Feast of Tabernacles and the Feast of Ingatherings. Barakatha Yahweh.
Barakatha Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai.
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai.
Asherah.
Asherah.
Athalanawa. Kag. Haksakawa.
Hasakawa.
Bashalawam.
Bashalawam.
The water.
Aman.
Aman. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the Feast of Tabernacles in peace. Thank you, so be it. Baha'ayim Ma'ad Asherayim Akkad, Psalms 121. Anya, Harayim, Bayanyam, Oh, Haharim, Mayan, Yabu'a, Isaiah, Yabu'a, Mayahawa, Shai, Shamayim, Wa'arataza, La'a, Yanathan, Lamawat, Regalia, Yala'a, Yanawum, Shashamarka, Hana, La'a, Yanawum, Wala'a, Yeshun, Shashua, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Shamaya, Yahweh, Tazalia, I am Yah, Yawamam, Hashamash, La'a, Hakaya, Wayarak, La'a, Baliyala, Yahweh, Yashamaya, Makau, Ra, Yashama, Napasha, Yahweh, Yashama, Hawalakia, Wabua'aya, Ma'aitha, I will Basham, Yahweh, go water, Aman.
Psalms 121, a song of degrees. I will lift up mine eyes into the hills from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber, behold. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yasharella, hear, O Israel. Shema Yasharella, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Shema Yasharella, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Shema Yasharella, Yahweh, Allah,
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abba Yahweh, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamkah, Yahweh, Malak with Kaf, Baba'ah, Ratazawanka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashamayim, Bethalanawa, Lakham, Yawum, Zah, Wasalaknawa, Kababafnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kababafnawa, Wala'ah, Habiyana, Oh, Nasayawan, Abo, Hawashina, Mara, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Wa'ataparat, La'iwalam, Aman.
Luke chapter 11, verse 2. And he said unto them, When ye pray, say, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so on earth. Give us day by day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins. We also forgive everyone that is indebted to us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Ha'aisharamatazawa, the Ten Commandments. La'ah,
La'ah,
Yahaya,
Yahaya,
Lakah,
Lakah,
Alahayim,
Alahayim,
Akarim,
Akarim,
Al-Panya,
Al-Panya,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Ta'aisha,
Taisha,
Lakah,
Lakah,
Pasol,
Pasal,
Wala'ah,
Wala'ah,
Ta'ibadam,
Taibadam,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Alakwaka,
Alakwaka,
Shamba,
Shemwa,
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Alahayaka,
Alahayaka,
Lashua,
Lashua,
Zakar,
Zakar,
Ah,
Ah,
Hayawum,
Hayawam,
Hashabath,
Shabbat,
Lakodashwa,
Lapadashwa,
Kabad,
Kabad,
Abiyaka,
Abika,
Wa Amaka,
Wa Amaka,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Taratazak,
Duratazak,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Tana'ah,
Tana'ah,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Taganah,
Tagana,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Tainah,
Taina,
Shakur,
Shakur,
La'ah,
La'ah,
Takamad,
Takama,
Ko,
Kau,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Lara'ayaka,
Lara'ayaka,
Amun.
Aman. Deuteronomy 5 and 7. Thou shalt have none other gods before me. Thou shalt not make thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thine ox, nor thine ass, nor any of thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates, that thy manservant and thy maidservant may rest as well as thou. And remember that thou wast a servant in the land of Egypt. The Lord thy God brought thee out thence through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore the Lord thy God commanded thee to keep the Sabbath day. Honor thy father and thy mother, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee, that thy days may be prolonged, that it may go well with thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, neither shalt thou commit adultery, neither shalt thou steal, neither shalt thou bear false witness against thy neighbor, neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife, neither shalt thou covet thy neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. Opening prayers for the feast. Barakatha Yahweh,
Barakatha Yahweh,
Hakadon,
Hakadon,
Rakawam,
Rakawam,
Abiyah,
Abiyah,
Wanara'ah,
Ranawa'ah,
Aliyawan,
Aliyawan,
Malak,
Malak,
Shal,
Shal,
Shemayim,
Shemayim,
Wa'arataza,
Wa'arataza,
Wakol,
Wakol,
Debarim,
Debarim,
Kayayam,
Kayayam,
Wagam,
Wagam,
Amashiach,
Amashiach,
Mayahawa,
Mayahawa,
Adawan Nawa,
Adawannawa,
Ahabnawa,
Ahabnawa,
Apalah,
Apalah,
Yawaitazah,
Yawaitazah,
Yahweh Shai,
Yahushua,
Zakar Nawa,
Zakarnawa,
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Baratazawan,
Baratazawan,
Ainka,
Anka,
Yasha'ala,
Yasharala,
Izar Nawa,
Izarnawa,
Banah,
Banah,
Wasa,
Wasa,
Yasha'ala,
Yasha'ala,
Oh,
Oh,
Nanawa,
Nanawa,
Yum Yun,
Yum Yum,
Aitha,
Aita,
Kayawumyum,
Kayawamyam,
Makwadam,
Makwadam,
Baba Kusha,
Baba Kushah,
Shalak,
Shalak,
Mayaka Allah,
Mayaka Allah,
Wahatazwadak,
Watazawadak,
Allahayim,
Allahayim,
La,
La,
Magunnawa,
Magunnawa,
Raparnawa,
Raparnawa,
Washamar,
Washamar,
Alnawa,
Alnawa,
Ba'ikor,
Baipur,
Shalak,
Shalak,
Haroka,
Haroka,
Sho,
Sho,
Yahweh Shai,
Yahushua,
Lanawa,
Lanawa,
Lalamadnawa,
Lamadnawa,
Rabium,
Rabi,
Hakama,
Kakama,
Tabawana,
Tabawan,
Wada'ith,
Wada'ai,
Sho,
Sho,
Debarka,
Tabarka,
Bahasham,
Bahasham,
Yahweh Shai,
Yahushua,
the water,
the water,
from Yad,
from Yah,
Wa'iwalam,
Waiwalam,
Amun.
Amen.
English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you, right now like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law. Barakatha Yahweh,
Barakatha Yahweh,
Bahashem Yahweh Shai,
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Athalanawa,
Athalanawa,
Athawarah.
Athawarah.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light to see. Barakatha Yahweh,
Barakatha Yahweh,
Bahashem Yahweh Shai,
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Athalanawa,
Athalanawa,
Awar, Lara
Larawah.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the rams horn to call the people. Barakatha Yahweh,
Barakatha Yahweh,
Bahashem Yahweh Shai,
Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai,
Asherah,
Asherah,
Athalanawa, Koran,
Koran,
Ha'ayol, Lakorah,
Lakorah,
Ha'ain.
Ha'ain.
Yeshabah, be seated. Right, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom, Israel, Ashar, Kag Sakawath, or Happy Feast of Tabernacles. This is our second annual Tabernacles here down in Polkton, North Carolina. We got the brothers and the sisters here. We got the tents up, food going, and having good spirits to come down another year. And for all Israel throughout the four corners, is also keeping the feast right now. All praise to the Most High on Yahweh Shah for giving us the opportunity to come together, to break bread spiritually first, and then physically with the food that's been prepared. This is the first day of the Feast of the Tabernacles, the opening service. Lord's will, everybody has a tent set up so that you can sleep in your tents tonight and then ongoing until Friday night of next week. So again, Most High's will, everybody's in good spirits, and I see the brothers and sisters here. So let's jump into it. I want to start off with the book of Numbers, chapter 24. Wanted to get into some precepts tonight before we get into our celebration. I am Kahan Samak. This is Kahan Nabiyah. Most High's will, you will enjoy us to preside over the service this evening. And we'll have a blessed time as well. So I want to go to Numbers chapter 24, start at verse 1. Numbers 24 and 1. And it reads, it says, and when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he went not as other times to seek for enchantments, but he set his face toward the wilderness. So Balaam was a hired witch who used to go out there and put curses on different people for hire. But the Most High intervened and showed Balaam that Israel is a special people, that you cannot curse Israel as a nation. So when he saw that the Most High had a hedge over Israel, that it pleased Israel to not do that, he went out to go and take a look at the nation of Israel. That's what we're about to see. So it says in verse 2, and Balaam lifted up his eyes and saw Israel abiding in his tents according to their tribes, and the spirit of Yahweh came upon him. Right. So he looked out into the field and saw Israel dwelling in their tents, like how we have right now. Right. You got tents set up here, tents set up here, tents set up there. And everybody, probably is in your apartment. It's in your backyard. It's in your front yard. Right. However, you're able to set it up. The Lord had it where, Israel came together, and we did it back then in his vision according to our tribes. Right. But this was a special case here because he was seeing what was going to happen with Israel in the future. The Most High was allowing the other angels to show Balaam something. It says in verse 3 again, and he took verse 3. It says, and he took up his parable and said, Balaam the son of Beor have said, and the man whose eyes are open have said, and he said, and he have said, which heard the words of the power, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. Right. It's like, you daydreaming, sitting there and your eyes is open and you just staring off into you're staring off into space. So as he's seeing this, right, the Most High is putting Balaam into a trance to see Israel. And it says in verse 5, how goodly are the tents of Jacob and thy tabernacles, O Israel. Right? So that's us, right? When the nations or others look at Israel, we're supposed to be a goodly people, right? Right now, we're physically talking about actual tabernacles or tents or booths, but in the spirit is really speaking about us, the people, right? Because the Most High said that we are the temple, right? We are supposed to be the tabernacle, and his spirit's supposed to dwell inside of us. And when they see us coming, that's what they're supposed to see, a goodly people, right? And what causes that is the Most High's law, statutes, commandments, the testimonies that's been set up by our forefathers and our foremothers to show us the right way to go. Sometimes we've seen testimonies where Israel messed up, right? And we've seen the judgment. Those things are learning experiences for Israel in the last days to cause us to now really understand how we should operate in these last days and not fall victim to temptations and other things, right? But he saw Israel in a good state, right? This was a heathen that saw Israel in a good state. That's a foreshadowing of what's going to come in the future. Right now, we can say, yes, we are a goodly people. We got nice tents up. What was it? A 10-person tent, 3 rooms. Like we got all, we kind of got a little fancy this year, right? But it's really supposed to be representing us, right? That tent is nice, but this tent is what the Most High is really looking at. This tabernacle is what the Most High is really wanting to find worthy, right? So we're dwelling in these tents to draw back to what our ancestors went through when they came out of Egypt and they were in the wilderness, right? And everyone should recognize that when we were in the wilderness, it was a proving ground, right? The Most High was proving Israel to see who was for him and who was for Satan or who was for his own lust. And a lot of Israel got weeded out, right? That generation got taken out. We want to be that righteous generation that the Most High, when he sends Christ and the angels to come redeem, he sees a goodly tabernacle. He sees a goodly tent, like how Balaam saw back here. All right. So again, this is the memorial of us dwelling in booths. It's the memorial of our harvest season ending. We gathering in our crops, right? Putting us in different mind states of how we operate from year to year, right? Every feast day that we come together on, every high holy day that we celebrate, always remember it is a foreshadowing of a spiritual thing that the Most High is trying to show us. And it's just not a physical thing, right? It's always like that. So let's go into the actual law pertaining to how we're supposed to celebrate this. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. I stopped at 5.
Oh, no, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to read this real quick, too, before we go to Leviticus. This is in Deuteronomy. We know in Deuteronomy 28. Actually, I want to go to Leviticus too. I want to go to Leviticus 26. Apologies. Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26. Dog's bag. Bad dog.
Yeah.
He's so busy. So Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28 are key chapters we can go to that talk about the blessings or the cursings that Israel would undergo. We either kept the law or broke it. But as far as the tabernacle is concerned, as you mentioned earlier, Kahan, I just want to read this verse real quick. So this is Leviticus chapter 26. Somebody called that, didn't they? So this is Leviticus 26. I'll start from verse 7. This part of the chapter going into all the blessings Israel would attain if we were obedient unto him by keeping his holy days. Leviticus 26 and 7, it says, and ye, referring to us, Israel, shall chase your enemies. You read the scriptures, your enemies are those of the children of Israel. You read later on in Numbers 24 and verse 8, it tells you that, right? And it says, and they shall fall before you by the sword. It says, and 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight, and your enemies shall fall before you by the sword. To where it'll be few of us, many of them, and the Most High through his spirit will give us the advantage, no matter what technology, what means they have at their disposal, even in the modern era, right? We have this host behind us just when we decide to walk towards them. But now reading on, it says in verse 9, for I will have respect unto you and make you fruitful and multiply you and establish my covenant with you. So the Most High does not have respect of persons, but he does have respect of nations, namely the nation of Israel, right? And he says he's going to what? Establish his covenant or his agreement with us. But now check this out in verse 10. It says, ye shall eat old store and bring forth the old because of the new, right? So going to top will be plentiful. But then reading on, it says, and I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor or hate you. So, like we said, we're talking about physical tense, but like many of our laws, they have a spiritual connotation behind them. From like the garments that we wear, from the circumcision to even laws of uncleanness. These are physical things that we undergo, but then there's a spiritual meaning behind it. And with the tabernacle, it's like for us to always be reminded that the Most High is always with us, even when we're out and about, abiding in tents like we see today, and like we keep this week. It's like no matter what time period we're in, no matter what's going on in the earth, the Most High's holy days prepare us for all types of things. Even in the worst case scenario, us having to go back to living just naturally without having the benefits of science and tech. We see with our holy days, they prepare us, even with the Passover, getting us to look closer at just how they've taken the Most High's creation and modified it, processed it. So the beautiful thing with the Most High's law is that it's always cutting edge, no matter what type of tricks our oppressors might try to do when it comes to, in this case, our dwelling. It says, and I will walk among you and will be your God, and you shall be my people. And I'll read 13 and stop there. It says, but I am the Lord your God, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, that ye should not be their bondmen, for I have broken the bands of your yoke and made you go upright. So that's the Most High has done for us. You'll see that word jasher sometimes. That word comes from a Hebrew which means upright, which is what we're supposed to be. Like in the scripture when it talks about Jacob being a plain man dwelling in tents. You look in the Hebrew, that word where it says plain is actually the word yashar, which is where you get jasher from, which means upright. So it tells you that Jacob was an upright man. That's just a reference to Genesis 25 and 25. If you're no 25 and I think 26. Let me just make sure real quick, and then I'll leave it. So Genesis 25 and 27, right? So yeah, when it says plain man in the Hebrew, it says Jasher or Yashar, upright man, dwelling in tents. The water. Sorry about that.
Okay. Wow. So now we're going to jump to Leviticus 23 and 33. Leviticus 23 and 33. So Leviticus 23:33 says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. Right? So Moses was receiving the Most High's commandment and instruction to deliver it to Israel. So we started off on Memorial blowing of the trumpets that began the 7th month. And then 10 days from there was the Day of Atonement. And then on the 15th day, here we are right now at sundown, keeping the Feast of Tabernacles as instructed by the Most High through Moses. It says for 7 days, right? So for 7 days, we have to count 7 days. That's when you're supposed to dwell in your tents. But as we're going to read, this is an 8-day feast, right? It says, on the first day shall be an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein, meaning no work for hire, right? So, if you're able to get off from your jobs, today is a weekend. It's a Saturday night. Most of Israel is usually off, but we do have some of our brothers and sisters who do work during the weekends, might be, hospitals and different things like that. So they're able to take off to celebrate this night, right? So that's what it talks about when it says no servile work. Verse 36, 7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you. and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein. Right. So just like I mentioned, the first day is a convocation or an assembly, and the 8th day is a convocation and assembly. No servile work. And it didn't say on the 8th day that we're supposed to dwell in tents, only the first 7, right? It says, these are the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, a burnt offering and a meat offering and a sacrifice and a drink offering, and everything upon his day, right? And what it means by everything upon his day, because when you read it in Numbers, the 29th chapter, it goes into the different offerings that the priest would do on those days. There were different offerings made each day that the priest did, right? But we made a proclamation, and every day we had some form of a celebration, right? For all of those days. So it's kind of hard for us sometimes when we're in, the lands that we're in, and we have certain jobs when we're keeping Passover and Tabernacles, where you say, hey, I might, try to keep the first day, but on the 3rd day, I'm at work all day. 4th day, I'm at work all day, but I'm going to make it to the 8th, right? Israel would do this for 8 days in totality, right? And we would have a nice celebration and enjoy ourselves, as we're going to try to do here while we're here in North Carolina. And you do the same things while you're home. Verse 38, it says, besides the Sabbaths of the Lord, besides your gifts, and beside all your vows, and beside all your free will offerings, which ye give unto the Lord. So these are the different types of ways that we worshiped and praised the Most High, and we gave different offerings, free will offerings. We made vows. Some just brought gifts into the Most High out of the kindness of their heart, right? We always, try to make it where, on every high holy day, the main high holy days, such as right now, we kind of make sure that Israel gives a donation to the Most High, right? And we try to set, a certain standard as far as for a certain amount of money or to make sure that the Lord is looking down and he feels good about what Israel is doing on this day. But sometimes it may require you should do things out of your own heart. It doesn't have to be, we had to pay this amount of money because that was the entry fee. You could do that and then do another free will offering because that's what you wanted to do out of the kindness of your heart. It says in verse 39, also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. On the 1st day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. So when you look at this feast, it's a double feast day, right? On one hand, we're celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles, and we're honoring it by dwelling in booths or tents. And then on the other hand, we're also keeping the Feast of Ingatherings because it's the end of the harvest season, right? We're in fall now, about to go into winter. So it was that time when Israel would go and gather in all the crops and then store it up in their barns or in your storehouses for the winter season. And then the Most High would have us come together to acknowledge and be thankful for that as well, right? So almost every part of the different seasons, the Most High has something that he wants Israel to come together and remember him, right? We come together to remember the Most High, right? The tabernacles, we're going to find that's something that's specific to us and our bodies. We touched on it a little bit in the class, in the Friday night class, as far as for how your body is changed and all these different things. Same thing with the ingatherings when you're gathering in crops. The Most High is the one that blesses your harvest, right? He's the one that provides the rain, allows the season of crops to grow up and then be plenteous. So from the first fruits, where we kept that feast day, to the ingatherings, we acknowledge the Most High and thankful that he has made our harvest season bountiful so that we can sustain ourselves. So I'm going to read that again, verse 39. And also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep unto the Lord 7 days. 7 days. On the 1st day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. And ye shall take you on the 1st day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and the willows of the brook. And ye shall rejoice before the Lord your power 7 days, right? So when we went and set up our booths or our tents or our tabernacles, we would go out in the woods like how we are, and we would go and try to find different trees, the branches and the leaves, and we would decorate our tents based on that. We would build it out of the wood, right, and stand it up, and then put all that stuff on top of it, right? Because this is what the Most High instructed. So around that time, you had goodly branches and boughs and things to go and do that, right? To now make it look a certain way. So we did that for the 7 days. Then it says on verse 41, and ye shall keep it a feast unto the Lord 7 days in the year, and it shall be a statute forever in your generations. Ye shall celebrate it in the 7th month. Again, this is a celebration, right? It's not something that's forced upon us. We're supposed to be thankful that the Most High is allowing us to keep these feast days, to keep these holy days, to remind us of our history, to remind us of our customs and our culture. Because if we didn't do it, all we would have is these false holidays, right? It says, ye shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths, right? So if you're an Israelite, right, you may not know your tribe. You just know that I'm an Israelite. You might claim a tribe, and it may not be. It doesn't matter. If you are an Israelite from out of Jacob, wherever you are, you're supposed to try to exercise or rehearse these righteous acts. So that's why in the lead up, we would advise brothers and sisters who can't make it to the park. You know, have different camps that's going to different parks out there, right? Some in PA, some in upstate, some in Virginia. We down here. Brothers is doing it in different places, but then there's other brothers and sisters who can't make it there. Set it up in your house, right? Set it up in your bedroom. You can't put it in a living room because you share with family. Set it up in your bedroom. I seen the brother sent me a text. He had a tent, wasn't like, the tent big ones we have here. It was one the size that he could fit in his room. That was Tawab, right? And then he'll get that experience of not laying on that comfortable bed, right? You're going to be, probably got you a little mat. Man, if you have an air bed, whatever, there's a process behind that. It's not the best. It's not comfortable. I know, I get it, right? It's not meant to be, right? The Most High wants you to understand that there's a process to this. Remember, it reflects our earthly tabernacles. This ain't the best either, right? We go through certain things in these bodies, right? So we're going to experience certain things in these tents. For those of us, for the first time, you're out here, you're hearing the bugs and the crickets, and we now got to watch out for the dogs and the animals out here. We're like, man, you got to sleep with your eye open. Like, who out there? Who trying to get in our stuff, right?
We had saw some frogs earlier too.
Saw some frogs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all kind of things that you now probably don't normally get accustomed to that we're going to find out and get accustomed to these 7 days, right? But it's going to be beautiful because we're supposed to celebrate, right? Celebrate this time. It says, verse 43, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh, your power. So that's why we do it, right? So when somebody looks and says, where you going? Oh, we going to North Carolina for what? We're going to, we're going out in the park. We're going to be dwelling in tents. What? You going what? You going to do what? Yeah, we're going to dwell in tents. Why? Because the Most High had our ancestors dwell in booths. And it's something that we have to do every year around that same time. Really? Yeah. What's that like? Right? And then it starts getting the conversations. So that's why the Lord wants us to make sure every time we memorialize every feast day that we do it to the best of our ability. Verse 44, and Moses or Mashah declared unto the children of Israel the feast of the Lord, right? So it starts off with these are the feasts and it ends off with these are the feasts of the Lord when you read the 23rd chapter, right? Majority of them in this chapter, but there's other ones that came later on, like the rededication of the altar and the days of Purim and so forth and so on. Go to the book of Numbers. I'm sorry, Nehemiah, not Numbers. Nehemiah, chapter 8. Nehemiah, chapter 8, and verse 14. So Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 14 reads as such. It says, and they found written in the law, which the Lord had commanded by Moses, that the children of Israel should dwell in booths in the feast of the 7th month. Right. So remember when during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, we were given license to come out of the captivity and come back to Jerusalem, right, to repair and build up the temple and the tabernacles and the courts and everything, because it was desolate. Right. So when they came back, the priests then went and found in the law and started now remembering certain things that we were supposed to be keeping. Right. So they found the part where it says, oh, we're supposed to be doing this on this time. Right. And then Israel went out and followed suit. So it says in verse 15, and they proclaim that they should publish and proclaim in all their cities and in Jerusalem, saying, go forth unto the mount and fetch olive branches and pine branches and myrtle branches and palm branches and branches of thick trees to make booths, as it is written. Right. So like I said, we're rehearsing the righteous acts. So some of us probably went to Walmart, Dick's, different places and purchased the tent. Right now, the next step after, so many years, you get comfortable. Now somebody's going to say, well, this is interesting, because in verse 15, it told us to go and actually make these booths. Right. So now who's going to be, advantageous and, to say, hey, I'm going to go out there and try to find some wood and bang it together and we're banging the metals together right now. But at some point, somebody's going to say, hey, I'm going to get actual wood from these different types of trees. Right. If you may have them in your, in wherever you're dwelling at. But that was the case. Right. That's what we're supposed to do. Right. To dwell in booths, as it is written. Verse 16. So the people went forth and brought them and made themselves booths, every one upon the roof of his house, and in their courts, and in the courts of the house of Yahweh, and in the street of the water gate, and in the street of the gate of Ephraim. So when you look at it, we're here in the woods, but Israel did them all over, right? We did it in the street. Somebody had a house, and we know our house is not supposed to be how it is now, but it had like a roof where you can walk on. They put their booths on the top of their houses. Remember when you read in the storyline with Judith, right? When you read in the Apocrypha with Judith was dwelling on her roof, right? She had a place set up there, and that's what she was dwelling at from time to time. So that's something that you can look at and say, well, you don't always have to come to the park or the woods. If you're in an area where, sometimes you see that there's like Israelite communities. I've seen that online where you got a lot of different Israelites who live like in a cul-de-sac or something like that. If you're in a cul-de-sac, you can set your tent up right there in the street, in the court, right? Set it up in the driveway. Doesn't matter. It's not forced that you have to do it in this manner, because we see that Israel came back in Jerusalem and did it this way.
It's funny when you brought it, but now we go to Walmart or we just order the tent and you gotta make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And back then it was more challenging to do, and the people had fun doing it.
Yeah.
Right, they had fun doing it. They go and get trees and bring. That's why we were putting up the tents. Right, we got challenge here and there. I try to lighten up the burden to make it fun, because it's that's the way it is.
Right.
And they had it harder back then.
Yeah.
But they still had it with fun.
Right.
Because even though we had challenge at the end, we got everything to come up. But that's the way it's supposed to be. The Most High says you gotta experience at least a little bit of challenge to see, how it is.
Remember, we was reading before when the Lord says to not hate laborious work. Right. Sometimes, especially nowadays in the society that we're in, everything is fed to us. Right. So easy. Everything is just easily given to us. So now you get accustomed to, you get spoiled, right? Where you can easily just call up somebody and just do this, do that, where you're not going through those motions anymore. But you're right. And then when you do have to go through it, then it's like, oh man, you're frustrated and you're going this. But then at the end, you feel so good when it's done. Right. I think it was, it was last weekend. We had to fix something in the bathroom. And it was like, man, like I didn't know it was this hard. I was like, yo, we just call a plumber. But we pushed through. And then once we pushed through and we got it working, after a while, I was like, man, that was dope. You feel good about yourself, right? You're like, oh man, now once you do that, you're looking for the next challenge.
Right, because you use that frustration as a power to keep you going.
Yeah.
Right. And right, as you use it, you get more momentum.
Right.
And then the challenge don't control you anymore.
And keep in mind, like we just said, all of these things is physical. What we talking about with the tents. So once you do, these different types of efforts, like plumbing or filling the booth, and you go through the motions and you work and you get it done, and how you feel good, it's the same thing. Now, once you go through some conflict, right? When you got battles, spiritual battles, and things that you got to go through and endure. That's what Christ said: endure unto the end, right? So now you're going through that, and it ain't easy. But once you continue, you fight through, and you get to that point, it's like, oh man, that tribulation, it kicked my behind, but I feel good that I was able to get through that. I learned a lot.
If you take it the right way, after a while, you see it wasn't about what you were doing.
Right.
It was just there to test your patience.
Of course.
Right. Test your resistance,
mm-hmm.
your persistence.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna quit?
Yep.
Because what frustration does is it can make you quit,
right?
Or it can force you to be progressive, right? Because usually that's what frustration is there. You can quit or keep it moving and use it as a way to persist. And once you persist, you're curious, you persist, then you gain the experience, that curiosity. You don't use that failure as a way. You use that failure as a stepping stone to keep moving and gain more experience. Right? That's part of the successful process. Failure is not really, to us as Israelite, failure is not really failure. Failure is a process to learn and keep moving through for your endurance.
I'm gonna read this and then come back to where we at in Nehemiah based on what we're talking about. This is Romans, the 5th chapter. Romans, the 5th chapter, and the 3rd verse. Romans 5:3, it says, and not only so, but we glory in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, right? So when you have an obstacle or a challenge that's in front of you, right? It's there that you got to now try to figure certain things out, right? We use the spirit here when we're going through our spiritual conflicts. The Bible here gives us different precepts and testimonies on how to overcome those. Sometimes it takes patience for us to go and look and examine and read, pray, study, say, okay, I'm going through this here. I remember, Joshua was going through this. Let me go reread about that storyline and see how he was able to overcome that, right? But it's a challenge that you now have to face. Everyone's going to have to face a challenge. It may not be the same as my challenge, but we all going to face some type of a challenge. But it says that knowing that we're in this truth, knowing that the Most High Yahweh told us that when we came into this, that we don't have to prepare our hearts for temptation, that we're going to have to prepare ourselves for some type of battle, spiritual battle, then we have to now expect it. It says, and patience and experience hope, right? So once you go through the challenge or the tribulation, then that's going to bring what? Patience, because you took the time to work that through. Then once you get that patience, then you now gain experience, because you now should process what you went through and says, all right, I understand how I did that, why I did that, what I shouldn't do. And now the next time comes up, I know how to go through that a little bit better, right? And then it says experience hope, right? Hope that, you know what, I can make it to the end. Right. I've done this so many times that I don't see me falling or going back. I'm pushing forward to the high calling. I'm going to make it through, right? That's the journey that we are now set for. So when you said that, it kind of just brought me to that. But let me go back, finish up in Nehemiah chapter 8. I was at Nehemiah 8 and 17 now. So we read how they made booths everywhere, right? Rooftops, court, streets, everywhere. It says, and all the congregation of them that were come again out of the captivity made booths and sat under the booths. For since the days of Jeshua, the son of Nun, unto that day had not the children of Israel done so. And there was very great gladness, right? So again, celebrating these high holy days should be joyous, right? if you're home by yourself and you have your tent there, right, and you're watching on a live stream, you're listening on a teleconference, right, or you're rewatching it the next day, other camp, it still should be joyous to you. Because again, there could have been a time where you didn't know this. You could have still been out there. What are they trying to prepare for? Halloween coming up. You could have still been in that mind state. So you got to be thankful that we have this information that is relevant to our nationality, our history, right? And not something that's just made up or something that deals with demonic stuff. So we have to be really thankful and joyous to be able to now do this, right? All the experiences that we're about to go through this week, we still have to be happy and thankful to the Most High to go through them, right? It says in verse 18, also day by day, from the first day unto the last day, he read in the book of the law of Yahweh, and they kept the feast 7 days. And on the 8th day was a solemn assembly according unto the manner, right? So all the days, we still went into the law and read aspects of the law to remind ourselves while we're doing it, right? So that we don't get too carnal, right? And do our, go way left with it, right? We want to make sure that we come back and read different excerpts, different storylines, ask questions, ask yourself questions. Am I doing this enough? Am I doing it right? Right? Could I do more? Right? Where can I now, take this and help somebody else with it? All of this is a perspective that the Most High wants us to do when we keep these feast days. Got something. Go to Exodus chapter 23. Exodus 23 and 14. So Exodus 23:14, it says, 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed in the month Abib, which means in the ear or the earring. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. Right? So there was always an offering before the Most High on one of these 3 main feast days. It says, in the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, right? So that was what we kept in the summer. First spring, we kept the feast of, in the spring, we kept the feast of Passover, unleavened bread. Then in the summer, we kept the first fruits, right? Pentecost, Feast of Weeks. And now we're keeping the Feast of Booths, right? So it says, and the Feast of Ingatherings, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field, right? So when it's talking about the Feast of Ingatherings in the end of the year, remember, we're in the 7th month. So it's not talking about the actual end of the year, like it's the 12th month, the last month. It's speaking about the end of the harvest season, right? Because remember, we're in the fall season, so quote unquote autumn. So we're in fall, where now things are going to get colder in about another couple of weeks. And then now you have to now start that process so that you can prepare what's going to happen through the winter to now get the harvest in the spring. So we're gathering in all our crops in the end of the harvest season, right? Don't think like how Esau does, how we just kept, they called the 7th month, the beginning of the year, right? Happy New Year. It's the 7th month. I was at the new year, right? You have to put context behind these things, right? That's what the Lord wants us to do. Make sure we go into the depths of what is being said here so that we can gather all the information out. So it says in verse 17, 3 times in the year all thy males shall appear before the Lord. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread. Salak, that's it on that. So it says that 3 times in the year all males must appear. All males, because the Most High says that he seeks males first. Unto you, O men, I call. because the men are the heads of the household, or the men's are the heads of the tribes of the nations here on the earth. Yahweh Shah was our head. So all males have to come before the Lord and Yahweh Shah and get instruction and then pass it on to the women and children. That's the ordinance, right? Go to Deuteronomy 16. Deuteronomy, the 16th chapter.
Hit dogs holler.
And the 16th verse reads the same thing. It says, 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy power in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and the feast of weeks, and the feast of tabernacles. And they shall not appear before the Lord empty, meaning everyone has to come with some form of an offering, right? Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy power, which he have given thee. So the Most High has blessed, everyone individually with certain measures, and then he's looking to make sure that we always come back and give him back what he's given us, right? Because all what we have is from the Most High. It's not our own, even though we go to work, we labor, right? Your car, your house, your clothes, all of that is really, things that we receive from the Most High. The Lord created the elements for us to have, these things, these garments to wear. So all we're doing is being good stewards for him of what he has created in the earth, and then is looking to see how generous we are to give back to him on the days that he set up. That was it on that.
Oh, real quick. I know we were kind of joking about it earlier, but just want to read the scripture in Acts, since we were going to, like you said before, the different efforts of erecting the tents and the challenges of like reading directions and making sense of it, and the temptation to want to just kind of jump in and do it instead of just saying, okay, let's slow down. We have all our materials. Okay, first take these and do this, take these and do that, and trying to find, if the instructions weren't clear, which some of them weren't, people could find some video maybe on our phone that helped us through it. But as far as making tents, check this out. So this is in the book of Acts. This is Acts. I'm just going to read where pretty much when Paul was doing the work in Rome, how he made acquaintance with 2 believers, a husband and wife, Aquila and Priscilla. But what you're going to see as you read is just something that Paul had, or that he was able to do, to where while he was trained as a Pharisee, when he went on his travels or on his journeys, doesn't mean it was the only thing he could do as far as being like a scribe, what have you, different responsibilities for being part of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes. But he had certain skills. And one of the skills we find out that he actually had, because you read about him writing in his letters all the time, he didn't want to be made chargeable to anybody, right? He said, while I could receive donations from you guys by going here and setting up churches and things like that, to not be chargeable to you, I would work and eat my own bread. So you kind of need certain skills that you can pretty much up and do as you travel, especially as much as he was traveling. You look at the back of a lot of these Bibles, you'll see they have the 1st through 4th journeys of Paul outlined in there. So when he made his journey to Rome, this was what happened. So we can go to Acts chapter 18. I'll start from verse 1. So Acts chapter 18 and verse 1. It reads, after those things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth. Chapter 17, that's an interesting thing there too, as far as Paul dealing with our people and others that were succumb to the Greco-Roman way of doing things, especially in Athens, where you had men who really were, supposedly about knowledge and seeking understanding and things like that. So he found something to relate to them through this thing called the unknown God, or an altar with the inscription. So he used that as a way to show them the true living God, which for a lot of them, it kind of fell on deaf ears. They were like, "What's he talking about? He's some sort of putting forth of strange gods. What is this?" But when he left there, it says that he came to Corinth, right? Which we know was they had a really big church. He had a lot of different members there. But now it says in verse 2, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome. So you go into this particular Claudius Caesar and do the history behind that, you can find more about those details. But as far as the different political issues that we were dealing with under the Romans, and especially when it came to following Christianity, which was looked at as like an offshoot group, an upstart group, right? Like even potentially like what we might refer to as like a watch list group when you go into how Christians were revered back then, at least until later on when they started to syncretize Christians believe with the Roman government and the Roman temple put forth when it came to their false gods to try to mix the things that are in the scriptures what they did. That came a little, that came more so later. But yeah, like how Christianity now as a religion is very popular. It was not popular then, right? People that don't even know much, they'll say like, yeah, there were Christians back then thrown to the animals, right, in the Colosseum, and it's like, yeah, you did have that for a lot of Christians. But anyway, when you read on, it says in verse 3, Acts 18 and 3, it says, and because he was of the same craft, he abode with them and wrought for their occupation, for by their occupation they were tent makers, right? So that's what we were saying earlier. We had a joke kind of going back and forth saying, yeah, we're learning, we're kind of, scraping our knees, developing some skills here. Maybe we should have a business where we make tents, right? Or maybe we have like a business where we teach like a tent making tutorial. It could be either or, it could be both of those things, right? But once again, you see this here to where this was something that Paul could do even as he traveled. It's like a trade or profession he could pretty much pick up and do. As he went from this school to that school, teaching our people, revisiting schools he already started, going to new places to teach new schools. It's always good to have like a skill you can up and do when you go to a new place or a type of business. But we see Paul was very industrious, but this husband and wife couple, they were very industrious as well.
Also, I got a link of scripture in Revelation.
Revelation?
Yeah, I don't know if you have it on your notes.
No, which one?
Revelation chapter 21.
Okay.
Start of verse 3.
21 and 3 Revelations.
And it reads, Revelation 21 and verse 3. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. Verse 4. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. So that's why when we keep the Feast of Tabernacles, which we will still be keeping in the kingdom, but just as a remembrance, we have the tents up. It's temporary, right? We're gonna take it down after the feast is done, and then on to the next one until our Yah shall be sent comes. But still, we're still gonna have a memorial in the kingdom, with the Feast of Tabernacles. Because the real tabernacle is Christ, right? Because he's the joy of the Feast of Tabernacles. And I'm sure brother's gonna read that, right? How Christ attended the Feast of Tabernacle just to show that he's the real living water and he's the reason for the joy of the Feast of Tabernacle, right? And so also in Zechariah, it's showing that he's gonna be keeping that in the kingdom. So Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 16.
So that was Romans 21, 3 and 4.
That was a Revelation.
I mean, Revelations, I'm sorry. Revelations 21, 3 and 4. And now we're going to Zechariah chapter 14.
Verse 16.
Zechariah chapter 14. And 16.
And it reads, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and keep the feast of tabernacles. Right? This is a future event showing that what we keeping is not something that is archaic, it's ongoing, it's past, present, and future. So we're not crazy for coming out here, right? And try to reminiscence when we were in the wilderness, right? This is like a makeshift wilderness that we're doing right now. That's why it's good that if you can do it, you do it. Right? You do it just to push you kind of like in a mood that we were back then, right? We don't remember former things, but we were the one back then in the wilderness, right? Like the Most High, Black all remembrance, and it's a blessing, and we should consider ourselves privileged, right? And to be here today to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Because not everybody, I mean, the majority of us out there don't even know, about the Feast of Tabernacles. But if you are in the know, like more things are showing to you than most men understand. That's why sometimes most I said, do not be curious and unnecessary matters, right? You don't care about, going in the moon because the heaven gonna be established here. That's why we gotta make sure that we understand what we're doing, and we are not crazy. We are not, we are not losing our mind just for being out here. Just so sure.
Right. So let's go to Galatians 3:24 first. Galatians 3:24. So Galatians 3:24 says, wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ, that we might be justified by faith, right? So what we're doing tonight, and we're going to do for the next 7 days into the 8th day, is a part of the law, right? That we're going to rehearse and have been rehearsing, right? So it's like going to school. When you was in pre-K, you was in kindergarten, then you went through all the phases of elementary school, junior high, high school. Then if you did go on to college, then if you did go on to, all of that, you learned from some teacher teaching you certain skill sets, certain information, a trade, what have you, right? The Most High in the law, in the Bible, gave us a law that was supposed to be our schoolmaster for us to learn something so that we can graduate to the next level, right? Go to Colossians chapter 1. Colossians chapter 1. And verse where is that? Where the shadow of things come?
2:16.
2:16, yeah. Go to Colossians chapter 2. I'm sorry, I said 1. Chapter 2. And 16. It says, let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of an holy day like tonight, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ, right? So when we keep a holy day, it is something that we're supposed to learn, like a schoolmaster teaches his pupils, his children, his students, but it is a foreshadowing of things to come, right? So like we said, these tents, 7 days, and the 8th day you come out. These is temporary, but it's supposed to be something that's supposed to foreshadow what's supposed to come later on, right? What is something that's supposed to come later on? Go into the Apocrypha. Second Esdras, chapter 2. Second Esdras, chapter 2. And verse 10. Second Esdras, chapter 2, and verse 10. And it says, thus saith the Lord unto Esdras, tell my people that I will give them the kingdom of Jerusalem, which I would have given unto Israel, right? So when it's talking about the kingdom of Jerusalem, it's another way of saying the kingdom of heaven. Why? Because the kingdom of heaven is for Jerusalem, it's for Israel, right? So the Lord said he would have given it to us. But what's holding us back? Sin, right? We got to get ourselves together, right? Verse 11, their glory also will I take unto me and give these the everlasting tabernacles which I had prepared for them, right? So the Lord said he's going to give us the kingdom, and then he's going to give us the everlasting tabernacles. What's the everlasting tabernacles, right? We kind of touched on it in the class Friday night class. What's the everlasting tabernacle? The kingdom. Let's see. Let's go to 2 Corinthians. Go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5. I'm coming back to Esdras. Go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 1. The Lord said that he would give out the everlasting tabernacle. 2 Corinthians chapter 5. 1 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 1. Everybody got it? So it says, for we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of Yahweh, and house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens, right? So the earthly house is talking about what? Your body, right? Your earthly body, this body here, it's an earthly body. We was talking about this in the Friday night class, remember, right? This earthly body, if it was dissolved, meaning it faded away and went back into the elements, the Most High would have another building, another tabernacle, another body for us, not made with hand, not like how it's done now. It says, for in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house, which is from heaven, right? That's why the Lord told Ezra that he would give us an everlasting tabernacle. The way in which you get the everlasting tabernacle, the Most High is going to change your body to be celestial. It's going to be a different type of a body, right? That's another one of those promises that the Lord is going to give us. But right now we're in the earthly tabernacle. It's temporary. So when we're in the booth for 7 days, we're in a temporary house. We're going to go through that. But guess what? On the 8th day, what happens? You come out of that temporary house, and then you go back into your normal or regular house that was supposed to be prepared. That's what the Lord is going to prepare in that day. But for 7 days, you're still in this earthly tabernacle. Remember, this is supposed to take the carnal or the actual literal thing that we're going through. Schoolmaster is showing you something. You're living. Oh, it's what not Makwadai said. Yeah, it was a hump there last year. Yeah, we didn't realize it was a hump on the ground. It was kind of like, we had to try to work around that hump, and it wasn't comfortable, but we did it, right? Same thing. After a while, what happens? You get a little arthritis, or you get a crick in you. You're going through certain things. You got to just deal with what you have in this temporary body. But when the kingdom comes, you're going to get a different body, an everlasting tabernacle. That's what he just told Ezra that I'm going to give to Israel, right? This is what now Paul is touching on. He's like, I'm desiring to have that type tabernacle right now. I know it's many of us who are going through certain things in this body and would love to have an everlasting body that don't go through all the things that we go through right now. I'm going to read verse 4 again. Verse 3. If so be that being clothed, we shall not be found naked, for we that are in this tabernacle do groan, being burdened, not for that we would have been unclothed, but clothed upon, that mortality might be swallowed up of life, right? So that's what happens. We're burdened. You got a lot of things going on in our lives, in our personal lives, whether it's family, whether it's work, whether it's your neighborhood, whatever. You're going through all different types of things to press upon you, right? Drop that, go to Wisdom of Solomon. Wisdom of Solomon, the 9th chapter. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9 and verse 13. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 9 and verse 13, and it reads as such. It says, for what man is he that can know the counsel of Yahweh? Or who can think that the will of the Lord, what the will of the Lord is? For the thoughts of mortal men are miserable, and our devices are but uncertain. For the corruptible body or tabernacle presseth down the soul or the spirit, and the earthly tabernacle weigheth down the mind that museth upon many things. That's what happens. This body, this earthly tabernacle, presses down the spirit, right? Because what happens, your mind is wandering and all kind of things, right? The scriptures tell you that the flesh is in a battle with the spirit, right? You're in a constant battle. So when it says here that the earthly tabernacle weigheth down the mind that museth upon many things. Sometimes you're thinking about this, and I got to go do that, and I'm over here, and this, that, and the third. Oh, I got to go get my doctor. I have to take this chicken. What we talking about earlier? I got to get some milk this one because my kidneys and this. You're all over the place, right? Because the body itself is going through changes, right? So you got to now be over here, and I got to worry about my mom, and I got to worry about this. That will press down on the spirit, right? We want to be just perfect. We want to be in a middle. I ain't got to worry about none of that. But in order to get to that, we have to go through these temporary challenges and endure and gain experiences and be able to push through, right? But during this week, we're just going to be dwelling in the tent, right? We're just going to be in the tent. If y'all notice, Samak be looking behind, I'm looking over here, and I'm looking up, I'm checking all things out because I'm just a city kid. I ain't out here. So now my mind is all over the place. I'm checking certain things out, right? All of this is a part of that. I gotta, all of us are gonna go through these things, and it happens in various different phases. So that's the beauty of exercising in the Most High's law and his commandments to try to understand him on a higher level. That's why that 13th verse says, who can know the Lord? Right? For us to know the Most High, we have to now go through what he has now prescribed in the scriptures for us to do. Then you start getting on that level, right? We think it's just, I'm just dwelling in the booth. I'm just eating unleavened bread. Yeah, I'm gonna put cinnamon in. We just be doing all kind of things, but it's the practice of it, right? It's the practice that we go through, and then you learn a little bit something year by year that you didn't know 4 years ago or 5 years ago. Jump back to 2nd Esdras, chapter 10. Let's finish that up. 2nd Esdras, chapter 10. I didn't finish second address chapter 10. I'm sorry, chapter 2. Chapter 2 and verse 10. Right. Salakia. Second address 2 and
before you read that, if I could, you guys can just link up what Khan just brought out. You can link it with Ecclesiastes chapter 40 and verse 2. As far as how in this tabernacle we are troubled.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ecclesiastes chapter 40, verse 1 and 2. Still good as you go down, but I'll just read these two for what we're talking about. So Ecclesiastes chapter 40 and verse 2, it reads, I'll start from verse 1 and then read verse 2. So Ecclesiastes chapter 40 and verse 1, it says, great travail is created for every man, and a heavy yoke is upon the sons of Adam. From the day that they go out of their mother's womb to the day that they return to the mother of all things, right? Referring to the earth, as you oftentimes hear in the even in the Christian funerals, they say ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? Because in the scriptures, from dust we are, and to dust we shall return. But this is in verse 2. Their imagination of things to come and the day of death trouble their thoughts and cause fear of heart, right? So it's going into the fleeting nature of this physical life, like you said already, in this earthly tabernacle, right, that we call a body, that we inhabit for this time being.
So back in second address 2 and 11, let's read that. So second address chapter 2 and 11, it says, their glory also will I take unto me and give these the everlasting tabernacles which I had prepared for them. There, it says, they shall have the tree of life for an ointment of sweet savor, and they shall neither labor nor be weary, right? So in that day, when we get these everlasting tabernacles, we're not going to labor or be weary like we're doing right now, right? We're laboring to learn of the Most High, to work, operate in, understanding, keeping these feast days and keeping these laws, dietary laws, moral laws. We're laboring to now to know this, but in that day, it's not going to happen anymore. We're not going to have to teach each other on how to serve the Lord. We're going to know it. We're not going to weary ourselves either through the physical or the spiritual anguish of what we've been going through. It's going to be done away with, right? It says in verse 13, go and ye shall receive, pray for a few days unto you, that they may be shortened. The kingdom is already prepared for you. Watch, right? Yahweh Shah threw that out there too. You're supposed to watch and pray, right? Watching the signs, praying that the Most High sends the angels to minister unto you, because that's a lot of times we get weak, fall short, we forget, right? In order to now try to stay on par, at least want to stay on par, right? On par meaning you're staying the course. Ask the Most High to send an angel to minister unto you for your weakness, right? What things you need help with, that the Lord send you an angel. Strengthen me in that so that I can overcome or learn to do better, right? So that was second address chapter 2, and I read from 10 down to 13.
If you could call the Wisdom of Solomon 9:13. You stopped at what verse?
I stopped at Wisdom of Solomon 9. I read from 13 to 15. Actually, you can go further down. I just stopped there because of spirit had we're jumping around. But so now remembering that we also are celebrating the Feast of Ingatherings. You gather in the fruits of your crops, of your harvest, right? So we know that the tabernacles is symbolic of our bodies. Now, the fruits of the crops will be symbolic of what? Us, the people, as well. Because remembering, go to St. John, chapter 15. St. John, chapter 15, and verse 16. St. John chapter 15, verse 16 says, "Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you that ye should go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever ye shall ask of the Father in my name, he may give it you." Right? So who is the fruit, or what's the fruit that Yahweh Shah is referring to here when he says that you should go and bring forth fruit? Anybody?
Good deeds. Good deeds.
Good deeds. Okay. Anything else? Huh? Like even Israel, right? Because with your good deeds, what do? You're going to go out there and teach. Through your words, you're going to do what? Drop a seed on somebody, right? And then what happens? They now hear your message, hear your words, hear your teachings, and then they now grow in this truth. That seed, that's why Christ gave that parable about the sower, right? We're like that. So we're going out there and trying to drop the word, plant that seed in somebody's mind, and then it can now nurture and flourish. And then they become, sometime back in the day, we used to say, that's your fruit. Oh, that's your fruit there, right? Yeah, I brought him in. I did, right? Your fruit should remain. It should stay in this truth, right? And then at the end, when Christ comes back, guess what he's going to do? This is the feast of ingatherings, right? He's going to gather all the fruit, right? Go to the book of Thessalonians, Second Thessalonians. Chapter 2, and verse 1. Second Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 1, it says, "Now we beseech or beg you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Yahushua Mashiach, or Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him." Right? So this is the ingatherings. We physically going to go and grab up all our crops. But now each one of us is a fruit. Somebody taught me, somebody taught him, right? And we're a fruit that's still remaining, that's here, enduring until the end, waiting until Christ comes, and he's going to do what? Gather us all in. He's going to gather us all into the rest of the Most High, right? That's what we're waiting to happen. But you have to now endure. You have to be that righteous seed that was planted on good land, right? That took root and flourished and blossomed until you come into, the time where it's time to reap and harvest you and bring you in, right? That's why the Lord speaks about the harvest season and the reapers and the sickle and all of that. All of this is supposed to be allegories to make us understand the carnal aspect, but take us to the spiritual, right? So it's a beautiful, it's eloquent how the Lord has the scriptures written in a manner that's poetic to us, to our salvation, right? That we can be saved in a manner in which how we're operating and doing the ordinances here in the law. All right. Go to St. John. I want to keep us too long because we still have to prepare our foods here. Go to St. John chapter 7. St. John chapter 7. When you read the 7th chapter, the whole chapter, it goes into when Yahushua kept the feast and what things happened during that time. Normally we read the whole chapter, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to read the whole chapter. I'm going to read a couple verses and jump down. So this is St. John chapter 7 and verse 1. It says, and after these things, Yahushua walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry because the Jews sought to kill him. Right. So he had to, use wisdom on how he maneuvered and operated and came into certain spaces because it was not his time yet to be crucified. So he had to avoid certain places and come in other fashions. Verse 2, now the Jews' feast of tabernacles was at hand, right? So when you read through the chapter, Yahushua had the disciples go ahead to the tabernacles. And then later on, he came in the midst of them into the tabernacles, right? So when you read that storyline, this is what happened with him at the tabernacles as they was trying to now kill him. I'm going to jump down to verse 36. What manner of saying is this that he said, ye shall seek me and shall not find me, and where I am, thither ye cannot come, right? Because Yahushua proceeded saying that he was going to have to leave after a short while and go where he went, they wasn't going to be able to come. So, right, all of this happened during the time of the tabernacles. Verse 37, in the last day, that great day of the feast, Yahushua stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. Right. So now here in 37, the 8th day is the last day, but it's called that great day of the feast. Right. Because again, when you come out of your physical tents, and when we leave here next Saturday morning, or some of us might leave early, but some of us, if we stay here, you're the last day, you're home, you come out of your tent, then you go back in your bed. And you're comfortable, like, oh, this feels so good. Ah, yeah, right? It's going to be symbolic when Yahushua comes back and he changes your body. And he was like, oh, man, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been wanting. Look at me. Oh, my mind is so clear, right? All of that is going to be that day, right? So the day of the Lord is going to be the great day that we're waiting for, right? When Yahushua comes back and redeems and changes us and give us the everlasting tabernacle. All right. So again, all of this is, the shadow that was shown to us of things that were supposed to come. All right. So we just went about a half of a watch. It's about 10:30 here. Like I said, I didn't want to go too long because we still have to do some preparations here to get the feast and enjoy ourselves. So anybody had any other precepts or comments that they wanted to bring out?
Right. Also, it's the Feast of Tabernacle in Garden. Feast of Garden happening just to show us also that even our physical dependence is on the Most High. So he did the tabernacle right around the same time we have the in Garden.
Yeah.
So even agricultural, our crops, when we collect, whatever we get. Granted, we're not in a agrarian society, at least for us as Israelites.
Right.
But we still work.
Yeah.
Right? Just know that even your work, the money that you get, your paycheck, is not really dependent on your job per se. It's dependent on the Most High. Even though you got it, you gotta, enjoy it, but always remember everything that we depend on comes from the Most High.
Okay. It's funny when we were driving down here, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us, when we were driving here, you kind of drive through, the different crop fields. It's cotton fields, you had corn, and you see the vastness of it. And if you're a person, some of us, originate in the South or come from, we are comfortable seeing these things, but when you're not, right, it starts to now, it cause your mind to think different things, right? It's like, hey, if I was, growing up down here, could I do this? Can I start a farm and grow crops and do these things, get the corn going and, start selling it and bartering and all these different things. So it kind of gets you into a certain mind state because the scriptures talk about that, right? And then when we seen all the cotton, you're like, man, our people was out here probably laboring, man. Dang. Look how it's going over hills and over hills and over hills, man. Dang.
I saw it as I was coming. I was like, what the hell is this? And then as I'm, pulling
Yeah.
Closer and closer. I said, oh yeah, it's a kind.
Yeah. I mean, the cotton itself is, things that we need. It makes clothes. It's the fact that, our people was out there slaving in the heat, slaving long hours, going through all types of extreme, things, from our oppressors in that, right? And you sit back and think like that. I don't know how I would have been. We was there. Like some of us went through it. You just don't remember it probably, but he's like, man, I don't know. We're in a different spirit now because we have a little bit more of, you know, rights or so forth and so on. The Most High has given us more wisdom, which now makes you stand up a little bit more bold because you know who you are, right? You have this covering now, so we stand a little taller. But back then, when you didn't think that, when you thought you was a heathen, or you thought that this was just destined to it because we were being mistaught, man, we was probably going through it, and you just kind of feel for our brothers and sisters back then, or us who was in the reincarnation back then. You just feel like, man, this this last day, this everlasting tabernacle, these promises is going to mean so much more. Like you said earlier, it was like when you go through these things and you finish, you get to the end, you feel great. That's what's going to happen. All this that we're going through, the turmoils, or sometimes we battle with each other. You go through your family members, you go through with brothers, right? At the end, when you endure and you still standing there, oh man, it's going to make it that much more sweet, right? And I sometimes be picturing myself crying and everything, like in that day, I'm crying and everything. Probably I'm gonna break down, see your house, I'm like, oh my gosh, right? All of that, right? Because there's like we just read, there's the body pressed down on the soul. There's so much things that you have going on. They were talking about black man, y'all need to get therapy. Y'all need to get therapy. I need to go talk to somebody. Granted, yeah, we go through a lot, man. We go through a lot. And we still standing.
Just because of the power of the Most High. If it wasn't for the Most High, how the hell can we stand in this society?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to that point, without putting putting certain things in perspective and seeing all what's going on right now, what's happening in the earth, what's happening in the world, what's happening right in your man, you start thinking crazy. Either I'm about to leave this country, you can leave it. Where you gonna go? Where you gonna go? You think it's gonna be that much better? Right? No way you can go. Right? The curse is everywhere.
Wherever you go.
Curse is everywhere.
Wherever you go, you are the curse.
Right. I'm gonna go down to South America. Man, they got naval ships all in the doggone oceans down there. They about to ready to bomb up Venezuela, and they're gonna all kind of stuff is happening, man.
That's what we read earlier about the Most High's tabernacle always dwelling amongst us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no matter where you go, there you are, and there the Most High is.
Okay.
No way around it. Oh, to what Kaham Bakwa brought out, you guys can just write down Lamentations 3:22. Lamentations 3:22 as a reference to what he was bringing out. As far as if it weren't for the Most High intercessing for us and dwelling amongst us, yeah, the heathen had their way, they'd finish us. To anytime you read about our kings or our leaders before, if they had a choice, if they made a transgression, they had a choice to fall into the hands of God versus the hands of men. It's like Most High all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to fall in the hand of these strange men. They'll do something horrible to me. Lamentations 3:22, it says, "It is of Yahweh's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not."
Mm-hmm. Con. Most High is looking out, even when we don't think so. He's got our back. All right. So, any other comments, questions? Loving it, feeling a little chill now. It was too hot earlier, but it's good now. So with that, Israel, Most High as well, those who are still home. Again, this is a joyous occasion. It's the weekend too, so it's a joyous time for us to celebrate the Most High's Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Ingatherings, 7 days if you can. Try it to the best of our ability. Do it with a righteous spirit and righteous heart. Enjoy the food that you prepared. We used to say try to do something every day to keep your mind focused on the Lord. We want to always give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High that gives us the ability to do the things that we're doing today, first in mind and spirit, and then physically to be able to celebrate with the brothers and the sisters. And I know there's other camps out there. A salute to HOI, HODC, WFI, even ISUPK, IUIC, all the camps that's out there to the best of their abilities, trying to, endure into the end and keep the Most High's commandments. We say shalom to you too. And to the rest of us, let's keep it going, man. Love each other and always give the Most High his thanks and Yahweh Shah his praise for allowing us to come together. All right. So with that, we're going to say shalom. Happy Feast of Tabernacles. Happy Feast of Ingatherings. Kum Yashrala. Stay tuned for the closing prayers. Almost need a hoodie out here now. Oh, look at all of them. I ain't got all the hoodies out. Amadwa Penuai Rosalind, stand and face Jerusalem. Closing prayers. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushai, Shemai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalat, Mayaka Allah, Waha Alahayim, Tazudakim, La, Shemo Burak, Ripa, Magun, Waha Kaziyat, Bunya, Yasha Allah, Washalat, Lanawa, Rabium, Kakama, Rabium, Da'ai, Rabium, Bayana, Rabium, Sabalanwa, Rabium, Amawan, Rabium, Aqua, Rabium, Ahabium, Rabium, Hagana, Rochanayim, Wasalat, Kol, Katayim Nawa, Laha Akim, Wa Akiwa, Wayasha Allah, Tam Yad, Waiwalam, Bahasham, Yahawashah, Towada, Aman. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers of angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Blessing for the food. Yahweh, got a woe, Bahasham, Adawanya, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushah, Barak, Mako, Yanawa, Shatayawa, Yanawa, Yayun, Yanawa, Lakam, Yanawa, Shakarai, Yanawa, Zakar, Shaw, Sakawaf, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, the water, Aman. Four corners prayer. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha Allah, Wabatia Sapari, Shema, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah, Right. Okay. All praise to the Most High. Again, Ashar Kak Sakawath. Happy Feast of Tabernacles, Israel. Lord's will, we'll probably see or hear each other in upcoming classes, as well as the closing feast. Remember, the closing is next Saturday night. We will also have a closing feast for a closing service for the feast next Saturday night. All right. Shalom, Kum Yashrala.